Imagine driving down an abandoned road, surrounded by towering pines that stretch endlessly into the night. The air is heavy with an uneasy silence, broken only by distant whispers and the haunting rustle of leaves. A mysterious cabin appears, its door creaking open, inviting you into the unknown. Inside, a map that shifts and breathes as if alive, and a choice, one that could change everything. What would you do if the road itself seemed to trap you, twisting reality with every step? Stay with me, because this journey into the depths of Echo Hollow Road will take you far beyond fear, into a nightmare you can't escape. Tall pine trees stood on both sides of the narrow road. In the dim moonlight, their branches cast long shadows. The rustling of leaves and the faraway hoot of an owl made the forest feel alive. But there was something tense in the dark air, and they could feel uneasiness spreading through their body. There were rusty signs on either side of the road that warned of dangerous turns, and a chilling note that said, "No services for 50 miles." The road was empty, and the surface was cracked and forgotten. Their friends didn't know what was waiting for them on the other side of Echo Hollow Road, which made them even more scared. A noise caught their attention as the car kept going. When Hurt heard the sound, he turned to his friends and asked, "Do you hear anything?" The sound of something deep in the forest caught everyone's attention as his words hung in the air. They were scared at the sound for the first time. Ivan said, "Maybe someone is calling for help." He was always interested, but tonight was the night when his interest turned to fear. Julia felt the driver's eyes on her and said, "Maybe we shouldn't go," in a mumbled way. But Hurt kept going. "Let's take a look. We should help if something goes wrong," he said as he got into the driver's seat. Even though no one else agreed with him, his strong will made them hurry to the corner of the road. The car stopped, and they rushed on. As they got closer, the sound got scarier. The sound then stopped all of a sudden. The other three looked at him and said, "Funny." When the car's engine stopped, everything went quiet again, and a feeling of fear took over their hearts. Along the road, all of a sudden, an old guy with a long beard and worn-out clothes showed up, along with a pale girl. They stood next to an empty wooden house off the main road. The windows were broken, and the door was squeaking in the light breeze. The rough, shaky voice of the old man said, "We need your help." The voice echoed through the thick, heavy air. The girl didn't say anything and just stared at her friends as if she were watching everything they did. The friends were scared but interested, and they knew something was wrong because they didn't want to go up to them. Those things didn't seem human at all, and Ivan's words didn't hit home with them. As things started to get skewed, Hurt said in a low voice, "Let's get out of here." For some reason, they felt even worse when they tried to get back into the car. The GPS wasn't working, and all that was shown on the screen was a distorted image of their pale, deformed faces. Ivan said, "This is not normal." He pressed on the GPS screen with his fingers, but nothing happened. It looked like the car had lost control. It looked like the road was sucking them up. Once clear directions became confusing options that changed every time they came back. The road changed again before they could think about it. As they drove on, they started to see familiar faces in the background of the tree. The pain of their unspoken stories could be seen in their sad and lost faces. Julie had a strange lump in her mouth as she thought about a friend who had disappeared a long time ago. She screamed, "This can't be," and looked into the seats, hoping the faces would go away. It was like the road had a life of its own, stopping her from going back. Their inner thoughts were affected by the whispers, and a thick fog covered the car, making it hard to see anything but distorted shadows and hazy silhouettes. "We need to stay together," Ivan said. "Let's look into the Keen and help him find peace." The weight of heading the group into the unknown was getting too much for him to handle. At times like this, friendships start to fall apart, but they were together and ready to face what was hiding in the dark corners of Echo Hollow Road. The fog made the air thicker, and it looked like the forest was closing in on them. The limbs of the trees looked like skeletal fingers clawing at the night sky. Everyone in the group was scared, but no one was brave enough to say what they were afraid of. They stayed together because it kept them sane in the face of the unknown. The old man spoke again as the group paused near the cabin. His voice sounded like the groan of rusty hinges. "You're not the first person to come down this road," he said, his eyes shining in a strange way in the dim moonlight. "But you might be the last if you don't listen carefully." He pointed to the girl, but she still hadn't said anything. Her pale hand pointed to the door to the cabin, which had a faint pulse as if it were living. Hurt moved first. "We need answers," he said, trying to sound strong instead of scared. The others reluctantly followed him as he took a step toward the cabin. The only sound that broke the eerie silence was the crunch of dirt underfoot. As the old man and girl stayed behind, their shapes became more and more like the fog until they were only faint outline. Hurt pushed the door open, and it groaned. The outside of the house looked very run down, but the inside was eerily clean. A single candle hung from the ceiling and cast a dim light over the table in the middle of the room. On the table was an old map with burned edges and weird writing in a language that none of them knew. Julia asked, "What is this place?" with a shaking voice. Ivan grabbed the map with shaking hand. He ran his finger over the lines and said, "It's a map of the forest." But the map didn't stay the same. The lines moved and shifted like they were living, rearranging themselves into a maze that was always different. He said in a low voice, "This isn't natural." Ivan's voice trembled as he added, "This isn't natural. It's like the map is alive, and it's deciding our path." Now, let me turn this question to you, watching the story unfold. If you were in their shoes, staring at a map that changes before your very eyes, would you trust it to guide you, or would you leave the cabin, even if it meant risking what lies in the forest? Tell me in the comment. Your instincts could be the difference between safety and disaster. The air in the room seemed heavier as Hurt broke the silence, his voice steady but laced with unease. "We have no choice. We need to find out where this leads." He motioned toward the table, and that's when Julia noticed the trapdoor. All of a sudden, the lantern flickered and went out, leaving the room in dark shade. There was a soft whisper in the air that got louder as time went on. The voice was hard to make out, like several people were talking at once, but one word stood out: "Follow the path or be lost forever." "What path?" Julia whispered as she held Hurt's arm. She looked all over the room quickly, trying to find anything that would make sense of what was going on. They saw it after that. A trapdoor lay slightly open under the table. Its edges had been touched many times and rubbed smooth. It was like it was calling them, daring them to go deeper. "We have no choice," Hurt said in a steady, low voice. "This map tells us where to go if it means anything. We need to go down." Julia cried out, "No. We have no idea what's down there. What if it's a trick? What if we don't come back?" Ivan put his hand on her shoulder to make her feel better. "Julia, we're already stuck. This road won't let us go. We have to take a chance if we want answers." They reluctantly opened the trapdoor, which revealed a dark stairwell that went up and down. Down below, the air was cooler and had a faint smell of wet earth and metal, maybe blood. The whispers got stronger and more insistent, pulling them down. They went down one by one. The steps went on, getting deeper and deeper until they had no idea how much time had passed. The darkness was too much to bear, and the phone's dim lights barely broke through. When they finally got to the bottom, they stepped into a huge cave that was lit by an odd blue light coming from a pool in the middle. The pool sparkled, and its surface was strangely still. It was surrounded by statues of people in pain and misery, their faces frozen in a state of silent scream. Ivan slowly walked up to the edge and peered into the water. What he saw in the mirror wasn't their faces, but pictures of things they had tried to forget, like mistakes, regrets, and lost loved ones. Julia whispered, "This place, it knows us," as she saw the picture of her lost friend. Tears were running down her face. "It knows everything." The whispers got louder until there was only one voice echoing through the cave. "You came here looking for answers, but there is a cost to those answers. Make a smart choice." Three things came up from the water: a key, a knife, and a book. Each one hung in the air and gave off a faint glow. "One will open your path," the voice said. "One will keep you safe. One will end your life. Pick." The group was filled with fear and doubt. Hurt took a step forward and looked at each item in turn. He said, "We need to think this through. It's not just about us. It's about what's keeping this place together. If we pick the wrong thing, but how do we know which is right?" Ivan asked, his voice getting tense. The book made Julia's heart race as she looked at it. Something about it felt like it knew her and was calling to her. "Perhaps," slowly she said, "I think it's the book. Knowledge might be the only way out of this." "No," Hurt replied. "The key. It needs to be the key. It only makes sense." As they argued, the cavern started to shake and the water surface shook fiercely. The voice came back, this time stronger. Choose, or be consumed. They didn't have much time left, and the weight of their choice was rising. Ivan made a last-ditch effort to grab the dagger, but as soon as he did, the cave exploded in a terrible scream. The figures broke into pieces, and the blue light ate them up, pulling each one into the water. Their screams were drowned out by the sound of the trees above. The cabin was gone by dawn, leaving Echo Hollow Road empty once more. It was like it had never been there.